I mean, this has to be the most Vin Diesel movie ever. Folks, after the pseudo Point Break remake Fast and the Furious came out, the world suddenly couldn't get enough of Vin Diesel. Despite now being just as much a meme as he is a high-profile celebrity, he did once get his chance at being an international spy in an action franchise. I guess that means today we're talking about XXX. If you guys haven't seen this movie, there is definitely fun to be had, but what we don't know is how it holds up and what happened to this franchise that was once so promising for Vin Diesel. As usual, I've got a couple of experts on it to tell us all about what the f happened to this movie.
Enter Vin Diesel, aka Mark Vincent.
Hey, Dwayne.
In 1995, he wrote, directed, and starred in a short film called Multifacial, which was semi-autobiographical and caught the attention of a guy you might have heard of named Steven Spielberg. He followed it up with a feature film he also wrote and directed called Strays, which was a hit at the Sundance Film Festival, leading to Spielberg casting him in Saving Private Ryan. In it, he played an Italian-American soldier named Carpazzo, whose compassion for a child leads to his agonizing death at the hands of a German sniper. His unforgettable performance was noticed in a big way, as was his vocal role in The Iron Giant. In the year 2000, Diesel was on the rise, with him landing a solid dramatic role in Boiler Room, and then the lead in a low-budget sci-fi horror flick called Pitch Black, in which he played a memorable anti-hero named Riddick, which was championed by early internet film critics and became a sleeper hit in theaters. The studio that put the film out, Universal, cast him in a modestly being as a star vehicle for Paul Walker, who was set to reunite on the movie with his Skulls director, Rob Cohen. Initially titled Racer X, the movie, which was a thinly veiled riff on Point Break, was retitled The Fast and the Furious, and, well, history was made.
It was you!
While Walker was the lead, it was Vin Diesel's character, Dominic Toretto, who proved to strike a chord with the young audience that turned the movie into one of the biggest hits of 2001. In fact, within weeks of The Fast and the Furious hitting theaters, it was obvious just how big of a star he was becoming, so Sony paid him a cool $10 million to star in their spy flick XXX, which was to reunite him with his Fast and Furious director, Rob Cohen. Written by Rich Wilkes, XXX was initially designed as a vehicle for Eric Bana, who turned the film down. The movie was designed as an answer to the James Bond franchise, whose star Pierce Brosnan was in the midst of a very successful run, even if his most recent outing, The World Is Not Enough, was deemed by some as a bit wonky, with the choice of Denise Richards as his leading lady an obvious ploy to connect to the youth market, which was largely ridiculed.
Now hold on a second.
XXX would reunite Diesel with much of his Fast and Furious team, including Cohen and producer Neil Moritz. In it, he would play Xander Cage, codename XXX, an extreme athlete drafted into service by the NSA to infiltrate a Russian terrorist group called Anarchy 99, who have obtained a deadly chemical weapon called Silent Night. Right from the first scene, you can see how the James Bond franchise was being targeted, with a tuxedoed spy, played by future Cobra Kai star Thomas Ian Griffith, being taken out due to the fact that he sticks out like a sore thumb at a Rammstein concert. Diesel's co-stars in the film would include Samuel L. Jackson as Augustus Givens, a scarred NSA operative. He was set to become the franchise's M, and indeed was the only one who showed up in all of the sequels. Australian actor Martin Zakos, who's since gone on to specialize playing Russian bad guys, including in movies like The Equalizer, would play the film's villain Yorgi, while Asia Argento would play Yelena, a Russian agent who's XXX's love interest. Sporting a hefty $88 million budget, which was about $50 million more than what the Fast and Furious cost, XXX was predicted to be the major hit of 2002. No expense was spared, with the Sony hype machine going into overdrive, with them even posting a XXX billboard in Los Angeles in August of 2001 before even a frame of the movie had been shot. Sony spared no expense in the making of the film, with ambitious stunt work that included motocross and base jumping, with the gimmick being that Cage's specialty was extreme sports.
I like anything fast enough to do something stupid in.
The shoot proved to be a chaotic one, as tragedy struck when a stuntman, Harry O'Connor, was killed filming a parasailing sequence. And years later, co-star Asia Argento would also accuse director Rob Cohen of drugging and raping her during the shoot, an allegation which the director has refuted. Given the studio's high hopes of the film, during the summer of 2002, XXX, which was stylized as small x, capital X, small x, so that it didn't look like pornography, was a brand you could find everywhere. I vividly remember buying the 2-disc soundtrack album and finding a rub-on XXX tattoo included. Once I saw the movie, I threw out the tattoo. It opened to $44 million, and, well, financially successful. It wasn't quite the major hit that Sony anticipated. It made a solid amount of money, earning $142 million domestically, which is a good number, especially back in 2002. And it made a similar amount overseas, but it didn't strike the cultural zeitgeist in the way that the Fast and Furious did, even though it actually made more money. Many at the time dismissed it as bigger, but not necessarily better.
I'm untouchable.
It didn't launch the franchise Sony hoped for, with Diesel, who was getting a reputation for being somewhat difficult at the time, bailing on the sequel, XXX 2 State of the Union, which replaced him with Ice Cube as another agent, and proved to be a box office bomb. In fact, for a while, the movie seemed to have really cooled Diesel's ascendance as a major star, with his big-budget Chronicles of Riddick a pretty big flop, and many slammed him for opting out of the Fast and Furious sequel, Too Fast, Too Furious. Of course, Diesel would eventually return to the franchise, with it becoming the kind of stunt-driven, epic spy saga that, well, XXX was supposed to be. Diesel did try to restart the XXX franchise with XXX Return of Xander Cage, which was another solid if unspectacular hit. And he's promised that more Xander Cage is coming, but we'll see if that actually happens.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
Yet, on an interesting side note, XXX did in fact play a part in the creative reboot that happened to the James Bond series in the mid-2000s. You see, Die Another Day hit theaters in the fall of 2002, and it was chock full of cartoonish, extreme action, which was believed to be a response to the fear that XXX would make them seem irrelevant. As such, you have Brosnan's 007 participating in terrible, over-the-top, extreme action sequences, which wound up being despised by fans, even if the film proved to be one of the highest-grossing 007 movies of all time. And ironically, its director, Lee Tamahori, would go on to direct the XXX sequel. The Bond producers, noting how far off base they'd gotten, and also noticing the impact of another super spy who proved to have a much bigger impact than Xander Cage, one Jason Bourne, decided a back-to-basics approach was needed, giving us the Daniel Craig era. So in a way, that's perhaps wound up being XXX's greatest big-screen legacy, and that without it, we may have never gotten Daniel Craig as James Bond.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.